Okay, I'm trying this again. Okay, I'm back. I have decided that I would rather talk about the United Healthcare CEO getting uh unalived. I'm saying unalived because I don't want to get restricted online. Um, I have been finding it incredibly funny how many conservative talking heads have been so oblivious to the global sentiment about the unaliving because my favorite, obviously everyone has seen this so far, but Ben Shapiro being just so incredibly out of touch with everyone. Like, my mother, who is the most reasonable person alive, was like, I do not condone what happened. I hate what happened. However, I completely understand the sentiment and I see where he's coming from. And I'm like, you are not the person who I was expecting to say this. Like, I know a lot of fairly radical young people who would be like, of course, like tear down the establishment, all of these people who are profiting off of everyone's suffering deserves to be unalived. But like, for a lot of the older people in my life to be agreeing with this, I know that something must be going on. Like, this is a very uniting topic. Um, I feel as though the people who are speaking about it are missing a very key thing because everyone's saying it's so terrible. And you can hold two things true at the same time. One, he could have been an awful person who killed a lot of people in his own right. This is accurate. However, there's another thing, which is I do not condone unaliving. I do not condone assassination. I do not condone any of that. And so I can be upset at the act, but I can also not be upset that it was him. I feel like there's two different issues. So on one hand, we don't necessarily want vigilante justice in this country. We want the organizations of the country to care about us and to want our well-being. However, since they're not doing that, we all have feelings about how they should be treated. In my opinion, all of these CEOs have very little care for the average person. I think they do not care whether we live or die. I think that to them, we are numbers. And I think that was very clear with the way the CEO was treating people. The fact that there was, a 30% deny on all of these healthcare claims, like, that's insane. Like, I bet 99% of those claims were incredibly important. I bet like 50% of that 30% were like life-saving treatments. And the fact that this man had the nerve to deny these treatments based on not making enough profit, like not getting enough money out of people, like, it's so disgusting. And I feel like we can know that that is true while also saying that vigilante justice and um, individuals taking the law into their own hands in general in any situation is not what we want for this country. I think that, for example, I think local government, each state should be responsible for monitoring this stuff. And I also think that the government, if the states are not monitoring it, the government should step in and help make sure these companies are doing their job both literally and like morally. Like, if they're just denying people because the shareholders, the CEOs want to make a profit, that is not how any of these companies should be run. And so instead, there should be some sort of like monitoring system, some sort of oversight that says, you are denying too many people. These are cases in which you denied people and they desperately needed this treatment and you were responsible for their death. So we are going to, I don't know, like fine you. Like the government or the state would fine the company a certain amount for every person they denied. And it has to be a large amount. Like it has to be equivalent to the denied coverage. And maybe that the money goes into some sort of, I don't know, other channel that people can use to petition the government for assistance. I don't know. I just feel like the companies who are regularly not doing their job in service of the American people should be regulated so that they feel forced to do their job. I mean, we all need health care. Like, none of us can really survive comfortably without receiving health care at some point. Like, even if you live off the grid entirely, if you never want to go in to see a doctor, if you never get vaccinated, like even then, there are times when you might need it. Like if you fracture your leg in multiple places and you cannot treat it yourself, like you cannot split your leg because it's so destroyed, like you're going to lose your leg, like you would go in for this life-saving thing. And also you probably can't walk, you probably can't drive, so you probably would have to take an ambulance. And so the ambulance is super expensive. The treatment that you get in the hospital is super expensive. And if your healthcare denies you, you would be in so much debt. You would like literally, like I can't even the American healthcare system is so flawed. Like you should not have to legitimately put yourself in mountains of debt in order to receive treatment that you need. Like if you are literally on the verge of death, like you have a horrible like lung condition, whatever. I feel like COVID is very divisive. I'm not talking about COVID, I'm talking about, I don't know, I've gotten pneumonia a lot, or the flu. I almost died of the flu 2 years ago. It was terrifying. But your lungs stop working, you're like suffocating, and you have to go to the emergency room. You don't want to be forced to pay thousands of dollars, in a lot of cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, if it's something serious that continues for a really long time. You don't want to go into debt to save yourself. Like everyone deserves what was it, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like that, I don't understand how in the US it is legal for the healthcare system to deny so many people life-saving treatment, or give them the treatment but then refuse like to do more unless they pay. Like there are so many cases in which I personally feel like the medical system has failed in the United States. I understand that a lot of people are not supportive of socialism, but I really feel like in France, if you go in to get care, it's like $9, like less, like €9, like whatever. Like that is insane, because if you go to get treatment here, very rarely would you potentially expect to pay less than $100. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but like most treatments, most appointments, like it's so expensive. And then the medication on top of that is incredibly expensive. If you like, I'm just talking about like a checkup. I'm talking about like a checkup is super expensive. And then the medication, any sort of medication, is usually very expensive. If it's covered by insurance, that's wonderful. But a lot of treatments aren't covered with insurance, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, I think everything should be covered by insurance. Like, if you are paying insurance, you should be able to receive some benefit of that insurance when you need a medication, when you need a treatment, when you go in for care. I feel like that should just be an expectation that people can rely on the system to help them. Because for a lot of your life, you don't need that much. And so when you do need care, that should be provided. I'm gonna switch out my camera. Okay. I really have gotten so frustrated with how the system works. And I hope that something changes. I hope that we are able to either have more government help with medical like care. Like, I don't think everyone who is suffering in the United States should have to literally pay an arm and a leg to get medical treatment, life-saving medical treatment. But I also know that because people don't want that much government oversight, because they don't want socialism, they don't want like super, I don't know, like the government taking over everything. I feel like people are so quick to just not want things that are literally so helpful. Like, how could you look at what France is doing with their health system, or Italy? Italy is insane. Like, their healthcare system is amazing. I know a guy who was like dying, and he went to Italy, and he got sick on his trip, and then all of the treatment that he received in Italy, it was free. It's the same thing for like if you're comparing the cost of giving birth in the US to giving birth in other countries, like what, Canada or something. Like, you should not have to go into large amounts of debt to have a child. Like, you should not have to pay so much money that could have been given to your child and your child's health and your child's education to give birth. Like, giving birth is something that a lot of women have to go through. Like, most couples have to deal with that at least once in their relationship, and you should not have to literally worry about whether or not you can afford to give birth. That's not even afford the child. That's not affording the child's education. That's not affording the child's health. Like, it's literally just affording to give birth to the child in a hospital. It's so terrifying. I mean, I understand that everything is very capitalistic in American society, and that's fine. I love I'm a consumer. I have to admit, I like shopping. But I don't think that things that are as important to every single person as getting a doctor's appointment, as getting a surgery, as getting like life-saving medication, I don't think those things should be part of capitalism. Like, insulin is a great example, and I know that California is starting to produce its own insulin, and that's going to wonderfully lower the cost of insulin. But insulin is something that people can die if they don't take it. And the fact that it costs so much. Like, it's not diabetics' faults that they have to take insulin. Like, why do they have to pay so much more for a treatment that they need to literally live? It makes no sense to me, and it makes me incredibly angry. And I, I understand that. Actually, I don't. The pharmaceutical companies are one of the biggest scams in the US. Like, they are incredibly immoral. Like, we're talking about like healthcare, like, fine. But like, the reason why things are so expensive is because the pharmaceutical industries are jacking up prices so they make a huge profit. And sure, I understand that they are a company and they have to make a profit, but they're doing it at the expense of individual people who are not making enough to live, let alone to get things that are deemed as, I guess, unnecessary, like medication. Like, to me, medication should not be a luxury. Medication should be a right. If you are taking some sort of medication that you need to live, that should not be a luxury item. That should not be something that you have to question whether or not you will be able to get. It's awful. And so, anyway, that was my little rant. I understand that people are having a lot of mixed feelings, although I don't think it's as mixed as people think. Because, on one hand, vigilante justice isn't good. Anyone dying isn't good. Was he a horrible man? Yes. Is his company immoral? Yes. Did they deny people life-saving coverage? Absolutely yes. Am I upset that it happened? Not really. So I think that's where we're at. I think companies need to do better. I hope that this gives some companies a chance to step back and think, maybe we shouldn't be mean to the people that we actually serve. Maybe we should actually be moral and actually help people out with what they need. Maybe we shouldn't deny people life-saving care. That's possible. But I also think that in addition to healthcare companies, things like pharmaceutical companies also have to be held responsible. And I think that the government is the best way to do that. Because if the government doesn't do that, it really feels like people will get steadily more and more angry, and something like this might happen again. And I don't think that that is the best thing for this country, for like a whole bunch of these individual people to just go and enact vigilante justice. That will terrify everyone. We do not want to live in a society where we feel like assassinations is the only way to, I don't know, move forward. I don't know, I feel like I'm going to get like censored or age restricted or something, because I feel like no one can talk about these topics without being like totally shut down by mostly the social media companies. But I'm just gonna rant, and if it gets taken down, I'll post the transcript on my blog, and hopefully I'll be able to get some of this out there, because I don't feel like I should be censored for stating my genuine opinion. Anyway, in summary, pharmaceutical companies are bad, healthcare companies are bad, the United States healthcare system in general is totally messed up, and I really feel like Americans are suffering because they are not being able to receive the care that they need, that could pretty easily be provided by the system for them. Being healthy is not a privilege, it is a basic human right.